Nicole Kidman prenup includes an alleged quote-unquote cocaine clause, which meant Urban, who has a history of drug and alcohol abuse, only got the money if he stayed clean. Awarded him between $600,000 and $900,000 for every year of marriage.
That was an odd,
Yeah,
strange
coupling.
marriage.
Yes.
Welcome to our live audience, not exactly in studio, our live virtual audience. I'm your host, Rayford Palmer. Joining with me, as always, is Rahul Iyer. Good to see you, Rahul. How's things?
Hey, good to see you, Rafe.
Thank
Great.
you. So we're ready to rock and roll. We got a fully loaded episode today with all kinds of goodies today. We're going to talk about a number of things that have come up recently in the last week. We've got our celeb divorce marriage news that we know you guys love, people getting married, engaged, divorced. Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt divorce, sort of follow-up information. We're going to talk about Nicole Kidman Keith Urban divorce and some confusion in the media about what's going on with them. And we went down the rabbit hole of celebrity prenups because of the confusion the press had about the Urban divorce, which we'll get into. And we're going to talk about crazy or interesting provisions in celebrity prenups. So that's going to be interesting. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then we're going to talk about a famous fashion designer splitting up from his wife. And we'll go into that. We will keep it secret. They say in the radio business, tease and please. So we're teasing it. And then we're going to have another celeb an engagement story. So we have positive news, celeb engagement, and we've got two of them actually that we'll talk about. And for those of you who loved rock and roll back in like the 90s, this one will be for you. Then an interesting New York Times story about Gen Z divorce. We're going to then have our discussion of the sort of hard topic today. Won't be questions from the audience. This one is going to be proving a divorce case. We're going to talk about allegations, admissions, evidence, burden of proof, and standard of proof. So this is going to be for you law geeks that want to know about how the law stuff really works. Divorce lawyers are not generally good at educating their clients about these things. We are going to do it for them and for you so that you can understand these nuts and bolts of every divorce case, because really they're the framework underlying every divorce. Next, we've got our favorite, I always love this segment where we talk about dating trends and dating apps. This one is loaded with dating trend stuff. And our favorite writer at Psychology Today, Bruce Lee, has come out with a couple of bangers, as the kids say, and we're going to talk about that stuff. So Angelina Jolie's story is real interesting because their divorce happened in 2016, Rahul, and their stories have come up lately in the press about a recent motion practice or court action related to a winery or vineyard they owned together, past tense, in France. So when they got divorced in 2016, it turns out they continued to own this vineyard in France. And it wasn't wrapped up in the divorce case. So there's been ongoing litigation in court about this vineyard afterwards. And apparently, we have the stories in the show notes, as always. When we scroll back into the past, so to speak, it's real interesting because this winery issue goes back quite a bit, several years. And what apparently happened was Brad Pitt was upset because Angelina sold her half of the winery, Brad Pitt alleges, secretly, selling it to seize profits. These are words from Brad Pitt's team. And apparently Jolie has a company called Nouvelle. They say she secretly sold her share of the winery and family home because the house is kind of part of the winery. I'm guessing it's like a chateau.
Right.
This is in France. To quote, seize profits she had not earned in returns on an investment she did not make. He claimed, and this, what's interesting is they were divorced in 2016. This thing wasn't wrapped up by the divorce. He claimed in a February 2022 lawsuit, this is me quoting the Los Angeles Times story, and subsequent amended complaints, that his investment in the business, quote, exceeded Jolie's by nearly $50 million, that Jolie reneged on exclusive buyout negotiations they agreed on in early 2021 when she originally said she wanted out. Pitt's been seeking a jury trial and the undoing of the sale in October 2021 to a company called Tenute del Mondo, which apparently is part of the Stoli group. I'm guessing that's the Stolichnaya vodka people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Jolie filed a cross complaint, which is a complaint going the other way, that argued the couple had no agreement regarding two-party consent to the sale of either party's interest. Brad Pitt was saying that they had to have an agreement if they were going to sell to anybody. She detailed allegations of abuse that prompted her to file for divorce. So she's now reaching back and talking about abuse that caused her to allegedly, or was the alleged reason, I should say alleged abuse, that was her reason for getting divorced in 2016, which ended their 2-year marriage and much talked about 10-year romantic relationship. Apparently unmarried since 2019, have not finalized their drawn-out divorce. Okay, well, that's clear because they're still fighting over this. We're not entirely clear on the details. It might be what we call a bifurcated divorce. Bifurcated is a term meaning the court allows them to get legally divorced so they're unmarried, but financial issues remain. That might be what's going on here and why this litigation is ongoing. This could be the financial stuff trailing the divorce itself. So,
and I've heard that's pretty common in celebrity divorces in California.
You're right, Rahul. You're right about that, and I've heard that as well. Now, we want folks to know, listening, that's super rare in our world, right? Like judges don't like that. They don't like these because look what happens. This stuff just goes on and on and on. So the judge wants the pressure on to say, look, you want to get divorced? We're wrapping up all the issues. Yep. We're not going to let this drag out. So, and even then we have cases going 2 to 4 years, in Cook County, Illinois. This case is going on and on for these folks. And he says he can't enjoy the house in France. It's now co-owned by strangers. Jolie says she and the children haven't returned there since leaving it. Apparently this flight in 2016 was where she alleges Brad had some violent incident, allegedly, that precipitated her filing for divorce. So the recent news article here said that Jolie wants Brad to pay $33,000 of her attorney's fees. By the way, that's just a drop in the bucket in this case,
right?
Because it's over literally one motion,
right? Where
Brad Pitt wants to get text messages or is trying to force text messages to be produced from a guy, one of the representatives of the Stoli company, about this transaction. Long story short, I won't go into all these details, but the upshot of this is you really want to get your case wrapped up in one shot and not have it be dragged out for years for what should be obvious reasons. The other thing is this really illustrates the challenge of owning some piece of property together where you actually own it jointly and not severing the ties between two people who are married, who then divorced, who own something together. And you can see the complexity here. Their interests aren't aligned. And she allegedly goes and sells half of it. And now Pitt's saying this is, damaging his value of the property. So it's just a very interesting situation where it ties together a number of things in these celebrity divorces that we thought you'd be interested in hearing about. So,
right. And more commonly, you'll see people, in our world, every once in a while, it's very rare that people want to own things together, but every once in a while, there might be a small business that they started that they want to continue to operate because of the revenues they're both getting from it. And that might be their only sole source of income. So they'll say, we'll continue running this small business, or they might own like a commercial building together,
right,
which they'll drop into an LLC or something after the divorce and say, we're going to continue to operate this rental property, for example, or this commercial building. So again, this is what happens. So buyer beware.
Yeah, and the courts, Illinois law has a preference towards severing those ties to prevent conflict. So there's case law in Illinois talking about like not frowning on allowing a business to be jointly owned after the divorce for obvious reasons. And people will tell you, I've had this happen where they'll say, well, we want to own a house together afterwards and we want to own a business together. And you say and they might say, things are great. Things are going real well. So, well, wait till they marry a new person.
Yeah.
Wait till it's not so good. Times change. What seems like a good idea in the moment or a shortcut ends up being a bad idea. So that's the lesson learned on that. So Rahul, tell us about, now we got time for this. Hold on.
We want prenup. We want prenup.
Yeah, yes. We want prenup. So let's talk about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's prenup and sort of the confusion around this.
Yeah, absolutely. So last week in our last episode, if you guys haven't watched it, check it out. Last episode, we talked about how Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban kept their whole divorce under wraps, so to speak, while they negotiated the parenting plan amongst themselves, negotiated their financial settlement called a marital dissolution agreement or marital settlement agreement, depending on where you live. They negotiated all that. They signed off on everything. And then at the end of September, they officially filed for divorce, which would be the filing that's done in public court, which is when sort of the media pulls it and says, oh, they've filed. And at the same time, simultaneously, they submitted these agreements that they've signed that resolves essentially all the disputes between them, and they're divorced, right? So that's what happened. And we even in the show notes added what we found online. I think I can't remember the website now, but we put it in the show notes last week, which had a complete set of the financial settlement that they had entered into, that you could see every single provision. And so that was all submitted. So great, they're divorced. But now this week, there's this article out of yahoo.com that says Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's prenup could be a challenge if infidelity claims are confirmed. And so they say that their rumored divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, might be challenged by infidelity claims. If proven true, the claims could impact their prenup agreement and the division of their multi-million-dollar assets, essentially. This article says there might be some infidelity, as it relates to the parties here.
Yeah, and it's dated October 3rd.
Right. And it says, Urban might have been unfaithful, which could provide grounds to challenge the prenup if true. And the report also suggests that if Kidman decided to, quote unquote, pursue it, the finances at stake could shift dramatically, and it might drastically affect and change the division of the pair's multi-million-dollar estimated worth, despite an ironclad agreement. So the confusion here is this is clearly after they essentially are already divorced, and the agreement that they've reached, the financial agreement they've reached, is out in public for someone to look at, to say, hey, we're divorced, we figured everything out. So unless someone goes in to try and undo that agreement, or that agreement is AI generated, I guess maybe you can never tell anymore these days, but it seems, legit.
This is fake.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the people who write these wonderful journalistic pieces are not doing the minimal research needed to figure out if someone's actually already divorced or not.
Or as they say, there was a quote from a guy who says they're committing random acts of journalism.
Oh, that's great. That's
so what's interesting here, they didn't get it right, and that I don't know if that it's possible that when this story came out, it wasn't hard to figure out that they were divorced if you did a little homework.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, yesterday for show prep, I was just asking Grok to summarize like divorce stories, and I remember the Kidman and Urban thing, and I said, "Tell me about the Kidman and Urban divorce. Is there any news?" And Grok says, "Oh, they're happily married. Everything's cool." It basically, like, Grok was telling me how everything's great and they're doing fine. And I'm thinking, okay, the AIs aren't perfect, and clearly it doesn't have the latest information. And I said, what about the fact that I actually asked Grok, because I was in like verbal mode or voice mode. And
sure.
I think I'm not trying to knock Grok, but I'm not sure it's that one or one of the other AI models. So let's keep it open and say it's one of the AIs. And I said, what about the fact that they entered a settlement agreement? And then the thing said, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. And so I caught the model did some searching, and the AI did a little homework and basically came back and said, like, beep, boop, beep. It was like, oh yeah, that's right. They're divorced. And so we did a little Googling today, and they are divorced. There's several other stories now talking about, her dealing with post-divorce and things of that nature. But it's just interesting. The story hasn't been updated, and it's all about like how this prenup could make their case go sideways. Our theory, our working theory when we were talking about show prep was it may be that this story was written like right when the divorce case was filed, but before the settlement document was entered.
Right.
And there are cases where that will happen with us, where it's already settled. I call it like a pre-baked deal, like the deal's already done. We work it out collaboratively or through mediation. We have a signed agreement, but let's say our paralegal files the divorce petition and maybe the appearance of the initial startup documents, but we just haven't filed what we call the prove up package, which is the settlement agreements and some other paperwork. And that just takes a day or two. So it's not always filed all at once. So it's possible that's what happened, but they haven't updated the story. So anyway, interesting story here. And it led us down a little bit of a rabbit hole on prenups themselves. So Rahul, tell us about this interesting story that we found about clauses in celebrity prenups.
Yeah, so once the Nicole Kidman Keith Urban prenup came in about infidelity, like you said, pre-show we were looking up what other interesting or unique provisions do the people in the celebrity world, not us, regular normies, have in documents like prenup. So this article, again, yahoo.com journalism, they say that the Nicole Kidman prenup includes an alleged quote unquote cocaine clause, which meant Urban, who has a history of drug and alcohol abuse, only got the money if he stayed clean. And so
Right.
what it's referring to is awarded him between $600,000 and $900,000 for every year of marriage, if he stayed clean. And then it's like Katie Holmes, who was formerly married to Tom Cruise.
That was an odd,
yeah,
strange
coupling.
marriage.
Yes.
My opinion only, not a fact statement. I don't want Tom Cruise coming after me. I love his work. I'm a huge Top Gun fan. Risky business.
Oh,
I mean,
course.
it's
Top
like
Gun.
yeah,
incredible.
Mission Impossible, I was totally into through about 2 or 3 of them. And then they just became like, let's do crazier stunts each time, and let's top the last movie's stunts. And it became a bunch of stunts like strung together.
Right. And so their prenup, allegedly, again, rumors about their prenup included that it purported to, quote unquote, restrict various aspects of her life, including her spending habits and her wardrobe, and would pay out monetary compensation based on the number of kids they had. It would also award her $3 million for every year she stayed married to him, capped at $33 million, so 11 years, a mansion in Montecito, and half of his fortune if she managed to stay the course for 11 years, despite which she filed for divorce after 6.
6 years.
Jay-Z and Beyoncé prenup reportedly gives her $1 million for every year they stay married for up to 15 years, as well as $5 million per child.
He had 99 problems. I won't say the rest.
You should have a soundboard for that one.
Yeah, I should have 99 problems, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. While Beyonce was apparently to be awarded $10 million if the marriage failed within 2 years.
Ah, okay. That's like quick bailout clause.
Yeah. Then you have, Kim Kardashian, Michael Douglas, and Catherine Zeta-Jones. And it's got just some more. So very interesting article. Tony Romo is mentioned here, and Jessica Simpson, which reportedly barred her from weighing over 135 pounds and required her to pay him $500,000 for every pound she gained.
Come on.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what it says.
I'm sure people are listening and they're saying like, how the hell is this enforceable or possible? Good question. So this is done these things are dealt with on a state-by-state basis. So everyone's mileage may vary depending on your state. So let's start with, there's a few subtopics here we should talk about that's a little bit of education. Okay, so we'll talk about,
good question,
are infidelity clauses enforceable? Are these other morality things enforceable? Let's call it drugs or alcohol, whatever, like behavior clauses. Mm-hmm. Can you have, we'll also talk about stacking money by year. So when your settlement amount is governed by how long you're married, is that permissible? How does that work? So like if I'm married each year, I get $1 million or whatever, fill in the blank. So these are kind of the things we've just described in these broad categories would be cheating clauses, an infidelity clause, a kind of like I've been married X amount of time, so I get a prize clause. And, like how long you're married, you get more money. And then this other one is like other behaviors that you're trying to curb, like this weight thing. That's one we should discuss. So let's start at first with this infidelity clause. This is the one you hear about more often than others.
These are the more common ones. Yep.
Yeah. So in Illinois, where we are at STG Divorce Law, it is unclear that they're enforceable. So in Illinois, we have barred cause or like marital misconduct for divorce as a ground for divorce. So it used to be adultery was a ground for divorce. Now it's just irreconcilable differences. So their courts will also not enforce clauses that they believe are unconscionable. No one would think they were reasonable in a prenup. So the theory is there's no case law directly on this since the law has changed. So that changed a few years back. So nobody's tested these infidelity clauses, taken it all the way up on appeal so that we have a case to look at and with a court opinion. So we don't know for sure. Would they be enforceable or not? It's unclear. I think it would depend on how severe the definition of what that all means and all that. But like in essence, we also got rid of alienation of affections cases. In Illinois, we used to call these heart balm actions. Balm is like the tiger balm from Seinfeld. And heart balm actions were, you stole my wife, so I get to sue you for damages. Basically, somebody cheated on me. My wife ended up marrying the other guy. I lost my wife. She's no longer with me. So I lost her sex services in society, which is what we used to call alienation of affections. And societies like friendship and companionship. And, then obviously the other stuff is straightforward, like services. She's not cleaning the house anymore. And obviously, these are old school. I apologize in advance, but these are the old school conventions from when the law was, we came from an agrarian society, and this stuff was enacted in the 1800s. Illinois goes back to 1818. So
and that's one of the reasons it was.
That's why it's gone. Yeah, these are old-fashioned concepts. So this isn't me talking. This is the law talking for those of you out in the audience. So these old notions of my spouse as my helper and providing sex services and friendship, those are stolen from me by this other person. Therefore, I should sue them and get damages. That's been thrown out several years ago. So if that's thrown out and we don't have cause divorces, the logic is that we shouldn't be enforcing infidelity clauses in prenups. But again, hasn't been tested here. Now, other states may vary, like a lot, because in other states, fault is still very real. Infidelity is a big deal. Rahul and I have talked about states like South Carolina where infidelity has a major impact on divorces. You can lose alimony. So I would believe that's very enforceable in certain states. So next, Rahul, let's talk about your thoughts on this alcohol and drugs thing. Like every year you're not on drugs or alcohol, you get X dollars.
So I think the problem with that, again, same as the last one, Illinois, your mileage may vary. Illinois, again, doesn't really have any sort of a legal precedent for this.
Yeah.
It's again, hasn't been tested. The big problem I see, though, and I would think, caution people trying to get into these types of situations is its enforceability, because it asks you to do so much homework. So if one person says you were not sober, then the divorce is going to essentially become about you trying to prove, because you're going to save a lot of money if you have to pay them out. And so it's going to become a thing about whether or not they abstain from drinking alcohol or doing drugs.
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting is it's like your only remedy really is to file for divorce. If the person starts drinking, are you going to keep records? That's kind of what you're getting at, right?
Right, exactly. And are you going to ask for annual drug tests? I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, this is so that's why it's one of those where it makes sense in celebrities because their celebrity life is sort of caught up in that. But for an average person, if you're concerned about them, first of all, drinking that much, maybe think twice before you tie the knot, as they say.
That's right.
And if you suspect bad behavior, like you just said, cut the cord or or something else that's not tied to the use of alcohol.
Right,
like do a prenup.
I don't
tangible.
I guess I don't understand. So you're going to stay married for let's just say 7 years, 10 years, and then we get divorced, and you're going to go back and say, well, this year you were drinking, and that year you were doing drugs, and so you get less than, you don't get your $900,000 that year. It seems like proof problems are massive. So I don't know that a court would enforce it. No. I don't know how the proof problems get resolved. So without actually seeing the prenup, Rahul and I can't really speak to whether that's even in there. First of all, we don't know. Somehow this is rumor, but
same Yahoo that thinks they're still married. So
yeah, so take that with a grain of salt. Next one is, annual payments, right? So this is one where you say, well, for every year we're married, you get X dollars. And this takes a number of flavors in prenups. Some people will say there's just an absolute cap. You're going to get a fixed amount of money. Like we talked about Kevin Costner's prenup quite a bit on the show. And Costner's prenup had a fixed, was it $1 million or $2 million? Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. And he just had a fixed amount, and that's all she was going to get no matter how long they got married or they were married. And she signed it and went along with it. And when it all was said and done, she got that, and he threw in a few more bucks to settle the case, basically to get her to go away. And because there were some variables there, like the amount of child support and some other bits and pieces. And I think he just wanted to be done with it. So he threw in some extra money, but I don't think it was a heck of a lot more than the base number that was in that prenup. So his prenup worked. He just had a fixed amount. Other people will have a scaled system based on, every year we're married, you get X, and, capped at sometimes it's capped, sometimes it's not. So that can be done for two things. One, you can do that for your asset division and say, these are the assets you're going to get in the divorce, and scale them up over time in some fashion. And two, you can deal with alimony that way. So you can say, for every amount of time we're married, you get X amount of alimony up to some level. The important thing to know there is a court will only enforce it if it's not unconscionable in Illinois. And again, your mileage may vary depending on your state. Generally, prenups are enforceable, and courts tend towards enforcing them. They might disregard parts of them if they think they're unconscionable, but generally they want to enforce them. So, Rahul, can you talk about unconscionability in the support world and how it plays in here?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally what happens is there's this notion of unconscionability, means it shocks the conscience if someone says, I can't believe you agreed to that. Typically, it's very, very hard to find a prenup to be unconscionable because two parties are willingly contracting regarding finances, and you have the freedom to contract. And so because of the marriage, however, there's this provision that, at least in Illinois anyway, regarding payment of support, in that people can reserve it, or you have to address it based on the parties' respective incomes at the time, which is why you do these complete disclosures that you attach to the premarital agreement. And so if prenups are sort of judged at the time of signing, meaning was it fair at the time you signed it? Or not even fair, because, like you say, fair is a 4-letter F word in divorce.
Right.
Was it equitable?
Right.
And, both parties signed it freely, voluntarily, without duress. There's no, shotgun wedding, or you're not getting married tomorrow and you get a prenup today that says, if you don't sign this, you have to tell all your family that's flying in for the marriage that it's off, to save embarrassment, things like that. So that being said, is it equitable at the time? And if so, then typically a court would do it. Now, many times, people do waive maintenance or spousal support. In Illinois, what we have is called the Uniform Premarital Agreement Act. And essentially, this says the agreement was not unconscionable when it was executed. And before the execution of that agreement, the party, so this, it's not enforceable only if it's unconscionable. They didn't get a disclosure, and they did not voluntarily expressly waive the disclosure.
Right.
And, the issue of the unconscionability of a premarital agreement is something that a court will decide if someone says that. That being said, very rare.
Yeah, and the one thing is, in Illinois, there's kind of one escape hatch, and that is the court won't allow somebody to be destitute. So if a prenup is structured in such a way that it otherwise is enforceable, but it would leave a person broke and like in big financial trouble, the
Mhm.
court will adjust things to come out with a situation where the person wouldn't be destitute. So, a recent case, a judge talked to me about, there was a waiver of maintenance, or it was either a super limited amount of maintenance or it was a waiver. And the person was really, the couple was in poor financial shape. And he ended up ordering fairly modest maintenance. The prenup said 0 or something super low, but the judge increased it, not to a ridiculous number, but to a modest number, to make the person not broke. And that's the one escape hatch in Illinois for prenups that are otherwise, you would consider ironclad, is something like that. So,
Right, exactly. So it's essentially is that, if the provision of this agreement of the prenup modifies or eliminates spousal support, and that causes one party to face, like you said, be destitute or quote unquote undue hardship
right,
in light of circumstances that was not reasonably foreseeable at the time of the agreement. Like there's no way they could have known that they'd be unable to work, disabled, and the other person won the Powerball. I mean, it doesn't have to be that egregious, but even then, the other person's doing really well.
right,
They may require the other party to provide support to the extent necessary to avoid the hardship. But that's not to say the whole
right.
prenup gets thrown out. It's
That's right.
just everything else will be the same. It's just,
Right.
like you said, you might get some support
Yeah.
to get you off the streets.
Oh, okay. Well, one other thing, let's do address did you talk about the weight clause for Jessica Simpson? You mentioned it. Okay. So you say, well,
no.
are these weight clauses enforceable? I would say no.
No.
I would think that's ridiculous, and a court would not. First of all, nobody knows that's really in there. So I'd say, show me the prenup first. And then secondly, that's going to be unconscionable. The court's going to say that's ridiculous. So
no, you can't do that.
That won't happen.
Even if the two of them agreed to it, it's still not enforceable.
I would bet a court wouldn't enforce that clause, even if it's in there. Next, let's talk about there's a split news. This is the tease and please. I said fashion designer. So Lori Loughlin and Mossimo Giannulli split after 28 years of marriage. So this is really interesting because these guys were the ones in that college admissions scandal. Remember that? I forgot all about it.
Right.
Yeah. And they were like rigging college admissions. Somehow they paid a guy to help kind of bribe their way in or something for their kid. They've been together a long time. And the gist is they haven't filed for divorce. The quote from Loughlin's rep, which you're successful when you have your rep do the talking. They're living apart and taking a break from their marriage. There are no legal proceedings at this time. They're on a break. That was on October 2nd. And it says this is 6 years after they were embroiled in the college admission scandal. They served some time, both of them in prison. It looks like several months. And then they were released. Oh, Loughlin received a 2-month sentence. Husband slapped with a 5-month sentence. Doesn't Mossimo sell his stuff like through Target? No, I think
so.
Yeah, maybe.
Or is it Macy's?
I don't know. One of those.
I don't know. Something. One of those stores.
He's still out there. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll keep an eye on this one. If they file for divorce, we'll keep our eyes on this case for you. Mm-hmm. But that's a new split. Hope things go okay for their kids and everything, and that goes smoothly and they don't fight it out. So
right.
Okay, what's the next one? You were going to talk about this other one. We teased this one. This is another celeb engagement. Yes.
The brother of Chris Hemsworth, also known as Thor, is Liam Hemsworth, is very famous on his own accord.
Also a handsome devil.
Very handsome.
Yes.
I think he was engaged to Miley Cyrus at one point, if I'm not mistaken.
Really? Oh.
I believe so. I think so. Or they were just dating. I can't recall now, but several years ago. So
all right.
Him and his former girlfriend, now fiance, model Gabriella Brooks, quote unquote, hard launched their news.
Hard launched.
Not the ring drop.
Not the soft launch.
No, it's this is The Knot article, and talks about like the diamond ring, which has like a vintage style cushion shaped diamond on a gold band, which reflects the current engagement ring trends. Okay. So they announced their engagement on September 12th, and the model took to Instagram to share photos of the proposal. And it kind of goes into detail if you're curious about what the actual diamond looks like, what it's set on,
Yes.
and so on and so forth.
Bezel
They've been dating
sets.
6 years. Yeah.
Bezel set, cushion shape. Apparently, it's the return of the cushion shaped diamond, gentlemen. I read some stories saying that, is this a trend? Are we seeing the return of the cushion shaped diamond? And I think I was hearing that breathless tone when I was reading the article.
Right. Exactly. That's great. I mean, it's, this is, we talked about Cristiano Ronaldo's fiance's ring, and we talked about who else would we talk about where we said it pales. Was it? Oh, it was Bezos, wasn't it? His his wife's ring.
That's right. We thought that Bezos's was lame compared. We were concerned for Jeff that it was weak sauce compared to these other ones.
Given that he's like the richest guy in the world or one of them. So anyway, just thought that's something that's happening that's a little bit on a bright side. So yeah.
Yeah, and it says this is great. They sparked engagement speculation earlier this summer when she was seen showing off her left hand while on vacation in Ibiza. I've never been to Ibiza. What's that song like? I took drugs in Ibiza or something like that. I took a pill.
I took a pill.
I took a pill in Ibiza. Yeah, the guy is like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah, exactly. That great song though. It's still great.
I took a pill.
Ibiza, as they say. Gotta have the lispy S. So.
Oh, okay. Never been there. Heard it's fun times.
Same.
So good on them. Get a prenup.
We want prenup.
All right,
we know
now
they will.
we got another one here. Darius Rucker, 59. He's older than me. Proposes to 33-year-old girlfriend Emily Deal or Dahl. Good job, Darius. Okay, all right then. Does that violate the rule? Isn't it supposed to be like divided by 2, add 10 or something? So you see 59 divided by 2, 29.5 plus 10. That's supposed to be 39.5. He's going too young. Oh, I don't know. Okay. Anyway, he proposed to her, and famously lead singer of Hootie and the Blowfish, then switched to country. And I guess he's had success in country music. I personally loved Cracked Rear View, I think was the big album for that band, for his old band. And he used to, I had heard that he got upset when people called him Hootie, but it's like, dude, you called the name. The band was called Hootie and the Blowfish, and clearly you're the lead guy. So if you wanted it called something else, it should have been Rucker and the Blowfish, I guess. So there were photos posted. Rucker shared the news on the gram, as one does, on Wednesday, October 8th. So this is fresh news, folks, for you. Posting photos of himself getting down on one knee and popping the question. And it says, again, 33. They love to show the age gap in these articles, okay? And here's what he wrote. Thank you for showing, this is a quote, this is what he posted. Thank you for showing me a level of happiness I've never known. The musician wrote in a caption, quote, the day I met you, I knew I didn't want to go to another one without you. Now I don't have to, end quote. Rucker shared 2 images alongside the announcement, one of the proposal in black and white, and the other in color of him smiling with his bride-to-be, who showed off a large diamond ring, Jeff Bezos, with a gold band. After Rucker revealed that a wave of well wishes inundated the comment section of the post, as happens these days. So she is a social media influencer, folks. She regularly references Rucker on the gram, where she's posted videos from their date night to a Lady Gaga concert and referenced chatter about their significant age gap. This is her quote. Oh, this is her quote, folks. When I'm running from the comments and then I see them say she's got to be in her 20s, she joked in a September clip, adding, quote, my frontal lobe has been fully developed for many years, but thanks, guys. So there you go. Rucker was previously married to Beth Leonard from 2000 until their 2020 divorce. And it says he became famous 30 years ago as frontman for Hootie and the Blowfish. Detailed this previous relationship with Leonard in his book, Life's Too Short. So very interesting. Anyway, good on them. We hope they're happy. Her social media influencing, may it continue in a successful manner.
Yes.
So, everybody's an Instagram model these days. Let's move on now to our legal trend subject. This is, we're both going to talk about this. So I came across this New York Times article from a week and a half ago. We didn't have time to put it in the previous show. And it was about, how does Gen Z divorce look different? And I saw this posted in X, and I was like, oh, I'll bite. So I looked at the story, and the gist is kind of interesting. The author explored, this is Maggie Lang, explores how the oldest members of Gen Z, now in their late 20s, are approaching divorce with unprecedented openness and minimal stigma, viewing it less as a personal failure and more as a proactive rebrand or fresh start. I like the rebrand angle. Drawing on interviews with young divorcees, family lawyers, and therapists. By the way, did not interview me, Maggie, and I'm always ready to be interviewed. You can DM me at Rayford Palmer on X, and I've got the best-selling book on divorce. I'm the guy you should be talking to, but okay. You'll live and learn. I need to be in the Gray Lady, as they call the New York Times, for those of you who don't know. I've been in WSJ, but not in the New York Times. So call me, I'm available. And I love talking about these topics. Okay. So here's the bullet points from this for you to summarize. This is from all this information. Reduced shame and mental health focus, which is good. Not a bad thing. Unlike previous generations, Gen Z prioritizes emotional well-being over endurance. Okay. But if you're just going to side comment by me, if you're just going to bail at a moment's notice, maybe not so good. Splits are often driven by factors like mismatched. Okay, Raul. I got to laugh at this. Mismatched vibes, differing love languages, or ambition levels. Okay, I can understand some of the other stuff.
You need immaculate vibes only, I guess.
Exactly. The vibes have got to be right, man. You've got to have, because if your vibes aren't good, why are you staying married, dude?
Yeah.
Rather than infidelity or scandal. One interviewee, MX Benson, cited mental health as the core reason for the divorce, framing it as self-care. Family law attorney Jackie Combs, don't know Jackie, notes that the taboo of getting divorced is long gone, with many seeing it as just a transition rather than a source of guilt. Okay. What do you think about that, Raul? What's your feeling about, do you believe in your experience that the taboo of getting divorced is long gone?
I don't think so. I would say, I think just with the way the times are, people are more accepting of it. I think that it's one of those where the taboo is almost gone. I think it's still there, but I think it's almost gone, and it's become so normalized now, given our percentages that we always talk about on the show, that it's almost one of those where if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And you tell someone you're married after 30 years, they say, "Oh wow, good for you." But you say you're divorced, and they're like, "Oh, okay, interesting." So it's like neither is met with shock and awe, like you might think. So I don't know that the taboo is fully gone, but I do think that it's much less a focal point these days.
Yeah, when I was a kid in the 70s, it was more like scandalous to hear about divorces.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, in my perception, I agree with you that the stigma has definitely diminished. But I think that ties into things like decline in religion, and there's all these other trends going that we see then in line with this. But in certain circles, it's still lots of stigma. It depends on your family, your culture,
Oh, sure.
What culture you come from, your religion. Obviously, it could be a major stigma or major issue. But generally, in American society, yeah, I'd say it's a lot less, like you said, a lot less of a big deal than it used to be. So next they mentioned.
Yeah. And then, just on that, I mean, we've spoken to many Catholic clients who are still a huge stigma and, a whole host of concerns with that. And so again, I think that's very, very accurate, about as a general concept in American culture, maybe not, but specific pockets within the culture itself or in other cultures, I think it's probably still very, very stigmatized.
Yeah, and I also, what it says, seeing it just as a transition rather than a source of guilt, I would challenge that a little bit. I think this is based on only my own experience, obviously, and then I guess what I've heard from clients. I think lots of people have some guilt about a divorce, which is only natural. It's, to some extent, it's natural to consider it some type of failing to some degree, even if you're not quote unquote at fault or the other person's more at fault, or it just didn't work out and nobody's really at fault, but the passion was gone or whatever. When people get married, I think most people genuinely intend to make it work, and nobody gets married thinking, gee, I can't wait to get divorced. So,
Right.
I was the happiest man in the world the day I married my first wife, who I thought was my forever wife. And I know the wedding video is somewhere, and I think I had it transferred to digital. It'd be interesting to watch. But before the wedding, I vividly remember the cameraman saying, do you have any, not regrets, but are you nervous? And I said, no, I can't wait. And that was absolutely true. I was so excited to get married to my first wife, and we had a great marriage in a lot of respects. And it's natural to feel some guilt about a failed relationship of any kind, whether it's business, personal, you played on a sport, it didn't go well, or whatever it is. It's that if you take any personal responsibility for your life and you're not just drifting along the currents of the wind in the world, then I think you feel some, if you don't call it guilt, then call it some responsibility, and you feel a little bad about it. And you certainly don't feel like a winner. So anyway, that's my thought about it. It's
I agree.
Trying to just erase it. I think people would like to say, oh, I'm not guilty at all. I don't feel guilty at all. I think that's what they publicly say. But I think kind of like everybody deep down feels a little something that they won't admit, which is like, yeah, I'm not super proud of it, but
that would
it
mean
happened.
that would mean it didn't mean much to you at all.
That's right. That's right.
And two things can be true at once. You
That's
can be
exactly
ready to
right.
move on. You can also feel guilt. It doesn't have to be, do you feel guilty or are you transitioning?
That's
you can do both.
that's exactly the point. Is you can be right about it. You can be the one that wasn't at fault or less at fault or whatever it is, and still feel bad about it. And so for a number of reasons.
Sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Sucks.
Exactly. Next thing, celebratory rituals and social media influence. This is interesting. Young people are redefining endings through empowering symbols, such as divorce cakes or repurposed engagement rings inspired by celebrities like Emily Ratajkowski. Social media amplifies this, turning splits into public narratives of growth and reinvention. Though the article cautions the instant gratification culture can make the legal process feel very slow. That's right. You can buy a car online through Tesla. You can set up a flight on your phone.
Minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes.
You can have virtually anything you want sent to you, a lot of it same day through Amazon. Thanks, Jeff Bezos. And you can't get divorced like that. And despite changes in tech and improvements in our systems, even when you're agreeing, it takes time. And that can be frustrating for people. So just understand that even though the world is going at light speed, the divorce process is still slower. And it's getting better, but it's still slower by orders of magnitude compared to ordering, DoorDash or whatever. So, but divorce cakes, we've had divorce parties. People have had that for decades. I've been invited to them, and I always turn them down. Thank you for asking. Practical realities of young divorces. With most Gen Z, I think this is very fair because the article talked about how easy these divorces are. And this point says, with most Gen Z divorces under 30, asset division is straightforward. Yeah, they don't have much. It's not complicated. And they might have debt, like student debt or something that they're just going to keep. And they usually don't have a lot of assets to divide, or it's not complicated. And that simplifies logistics and makes divorces faster. So yeah, their divorces are going to be easier. And a lot of times they don't have children. So some of this is, older references with new names or old wine in new bottles. And that would be, and we see this before. This is what we used to call starter marriages. So that was the term when people get married for a couple of years, then it's not working out. They don't have kids and they say, oh, let's get divorced. And this to me is kind of like a restatement of that with maybe a Gen Z twist with social media and stuff like that. And it talks about some anecdotes. And there was a 26-year-old podcaster, like that's a career choice. If you're Joe Rogan, it's a career choice. For the rest of us, it's got to be a side hustle. I got to tell you.
Right.
Nicole, this person married at 18, divorced 18 months later. Okay. Number one, you married at 18. All right. She pushes back against the oversimplification of just leave if it's not perfect, emphasizing divorce's profound impact, which I appreciate that she takes it seriously and said, hey, I'm not just bailing out if it isn't perfect. It is a big deal. So basically it's saying it's not glorified. Divorce isn't glorified, but it's destigmatized. So I'm glad about the trend towards positive mental health and happy to see more people embracing counseling, because counseling was pretty taboo when I started doing this in the early 2000s. I would talk to guys on the phone and like, I don't need a counselor. They'd say, I don't need a shrink was the term.
Oh,
And
that's right. Shrinks.
Yeah. And they were very like, I'm not psycho. What are you saying? I'm like, well, you're going through a traumatic situation. And, and then I had a counselor for the first time in my life when I got divorced, and I thought it was essential. So there has been a destigmatization of mental health and related professionals. And I think that's a good thing. So
I think the psychologist lobby did a great job in eliminating the common parlance of the word shrink.
Oh,
Yeah,
good point. I haven't heard that term in a while.
I know, right?
So anyway, that's the gist on that one. So Rahul, tell us about so moving on to our favorite dating app segment that people are very excited to hear about. Rahul, can you tell us about the dating trends to know at 2025? So we always talk about these dating trends, dating app stuff, and we found, guess what, a bunch more trends that we did not know were out there. We think we exhaust them, and then more of these pop up. So tell us about this one.
Yeah, this is a purewow.com article that I'm looking here. And so this titled 5 Dating Trends That Will Be Huge in 2025. Well, I hope it's going to be huge for the next 3 months. But
didn't we talk about summer flings? So your summer flings are officially over, folks.
Yes. So this is
your fall fling.
Might be over as well, actually. As they say.
Wait, what season?
Cuffing season is another thing.
Oh yeah, they had cuffing season. I forgot about that one. We have to get a calendar to keep track of what season it is for the date. And season, by the way, folks, SZN.
Yes.
For the gram.
Not the nerdy version of the spelling with the full 7 letters.
We condense it down.
Yeah, exactly.
It is PSL season, pumpkin spice latte for those of you going to Starbucks.
Exactly, so with the temperature to match.
It's time for that fall romance is out there. With the air is crisp. You can wear your comfy sweater or your tweedy jacket.
Yep. Quarter zips are back out again. So
yeah, quarter zips. The finance bros are out in the quarter zips for you girls in Manhattan.
Exactly.
All right. Roll us through these apps that we can keep the oldsters like me in tune to this stuff.
Yeah. So this is for all the boomers out there, This,
well, and quite a bit younger. Boomers down to Gen X and Gen Y, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And the millennials.
So
the first thing, there's 5 dating trends, from AI dating to grim keeping, that will govern the way we find love in 2025. So number 1, freak matching. Freak matching is where people connect over shared quirks, i.e., is somebody going to match my freak? Shared quirks, unique interests, or general weirdness. Basically describes dating with the goal of meeting someone who will keep up with all your eccentricities.
So if you're like into Funko Pops and cosplay,
yes,
you want to find somebody that digs that.
Exactly.
Because otherwise she'll be just busting your chops over your Funko Pops all the time.
Eggs.
Okay, if any of you are into that, I apologize. I'm in a different generation. I probably don't understand. The cosplay, I kind of understand. I've never done it myself, but it kind of every day is Halloween, quoting the song by come on, it's a Chicago band, I think.
Yeah, I know.
Every day is Halloween. Come on, I gotta look it up.
By the way, if you haven't heard that up,
go ahead. Keep talking.
Next one, collab or dating. So collaborate and dating.
Ministry.
Yes.
Ministry, 1997. Amazing, like electro. I don't know what you call it, but Ministry, 1987, guys. Industrial music, synth pop. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Collaborating. My apologies.
Collaborating. No, this is great. Collaborating is when Gen Z daters are going to be more and more interested in combining dating and content creation.
Do it for the gram.
It's all about teaming up to make TikToks.
Oh no.
Build photo dumps or design joint playlists. It's the ultimate vibe for anyone who loves capturing moments.
Vibes, dude.
And sharing their story outline. Well, I guess this is what makes your transition out of, marriage and into divorce a lot easier, I guess, if this is what you're kind of doing.
Yes.
So Next one, filter-free dating.
Okay.
Filter-free dating is where people are more open to discussing taboo topics. So are giving perspectives to old dating beliefs and shifting mindsets for a fresh approach to dating, according to this rule breaker on eHarmony, I guess.
So this is literally just putting it out there. Like, this is my deal.
Like
Too bad if you don't like it.
politics, money, X, etc. Let go of old rules that state what you can and can't talk about. AI dating. That's the next one.
Can I comment on filter-free dating?
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Do you remember the episode where we talked about the guy who was a cosplayer and had his Star Wars outfit in the pictures on the dating app?
Yes.
And the dating coach commented, this is a great episode, by the way. It's way back in the early months. But the dating coach they had reviewing the person said, you probably don't want to have the picture of you in the stormtrooper outfit. And let's just say the guy didn't look awesome in the uniform, but you probably don't want that in the dating profile. And so I have nerdy hobbies. For example, I collect trains. Let's just say I wasn't telling my girlfriends about my train hobby in the first several dates. You have to get them to fall for your other aspects before you roll out your kind of like quirky stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a fan of this, but okay, if you think this is a way to get it done more efficiently, and if you lay it all out there, all right, go to it. Good luck.
Exactly. Well said. All right. AI dating is essentially where you're using AI. This kind of has a lot of words to basically say AI is helping you write phrases or comments and have a conversation with this person, which says it's all fine as long as you're dating virtually. But when you're a novice and you don't know what to say, but it's got to be sort of a learning experience where if you meet this person IRL, as we say, you're not going to sound like that bot or that AI agent you're using.
Yep.
You're going to sound like yourself, and that's going to be, pretty obvious.
If you're not as cool as the swaggy, AI bot that's chatting with your girl, exactly, and she meets you and you're a dork, it's not going to go well. And that's
she's also using an AI agent.
Well, that's the irony, right? Like, if everybody's using AI and they're filtered pictures, and then they show up at the coffee place, they don't recognize each other. Are you
the?
Yeah.
What did they do in the back in the day? I'll be the one with the red rose.
Yeah.
On my lapel.
Right. And they have a password or like a code word, but it's, you got to be careful about this AI dating stuff, folks. It's like, use it to help you structure things, but I wouldn't use it to be doing all the talking. And gentlemen, texting is for logistics only. Remember that. Yes. I'm here to help you.
Yes, exactly. Last but not least, grim keeping. So
I want to know, what's this one? I didn't read this one.
This one, yes. This is coined by Plenty of Fish. Grim keeping means bonding with someone over your darker side or shared dislikes. Essentially coming together over the things that rub you the wrong way to deepen the connection. So essentially, the two of you are basically a couple of haters hating on people together.
You're like joint haters.
That creates a bond.
This is like in high school when you're hitting on the girl and you're like, isn't the teacher a jerk? And the girl's like, yeah,
you're right.
You're like, man, that teacher's such a jerk, man. I can't believe it. And the girl's like, yeah, like, hey, want to go to lunch?
Shove that kid in the locker first before we go to lunch.
Yeah, let's go to lunch, and then we'll talk about the bands we hate. And it's the goth girl or now they call the goth girl, but back then she was wearing like a Led Zeppelin t-shirt, and we're all black when I was in high school. Yep. So this next one, there's more. But wait, there's more. And the indomitable No relation.
Yes.
Yeah, now I got 5. Just when you thought we were out of dating trends, Bruce Lee comes at you on October 5th with new ones, and they're amazing. Bruce Lee's a doctor and an MBA, so he's a serious dude and a psychiatrist, and he follows this stuff, which is really interesting. And a lot of his information is from surveys. He pulls out some stats and everything. So this is beautiful. One of these, so you've probably heard the term Riz, right? So the kids talk about Riz, which is charisma for those of you playing the home game.
Yes.
And they'll say like the person's rizzing somebody up, meaning they're like chatting them up and using the charisma. So this is chemistry. And this trend is open to catching unexpected chemistry. And it's chemistry with some Riz in the middle. Now, I'm not really sure like how
I have no idea what that means.
the point is many times you don't see the Riz in someone initially. You have to give it time to emerge. I'm a fan of 3 to 5 dates before you make decisions, just because there's so much social anxiety in the world. So here's the point. The point apparently is give them a few dates. If the level of interest doesn't seem amazing in the first date, give them a couple more chances, because people are nervous and they might not be putting their best Riz out there because they're just uncomfortable initially. So I could see some of that. If it's not a total no, this person's suggesting try a couple more times and see if you just got them on a bad night. Okay, I get that. The next one is curveball crushing. This is basically the theoretical example is that used by this person was, I've only dated people with green hair, and all of a sudden I'm going to date somebody that's a brunette. So it's doing something completely outside of your norm or your type. And if you have your sort of checklist, people apparently, according to the research, and we talked about this before, they overly restrict based on their physical attributes checklist, height being a big one. And when they actually meet somebody, they find out they really like them, even though they're 5'10" and not 6 feet tall, for example. So curveball crushing is going after somebody that's outside of your normal type. Love loring, like lore for like a story. Love lore is slang for history, stories, or legend behind a person. Love loring is adding to your lore. So basically, these are people in surveys who responded that they went on dates just to see what would happen, just to see where the story led. It's a slight twist to the dating for the plot trend that apparently Mr. Lee or Dr. Lee's described previously. It's a shift towards curiosity and adventures, being more playful. It's a little bit less about being concerned about finding a perfect match and instead doing it for the adventure. And people have done this before. Like, I'll go out with a person, they're not my dream person, but this is just going to be a fun time. And my father, Doug Palmer, he used to say things like in high school, when I was in high school, like, you're not marrying her, just go out and have fun. And just being out there, other people see that you're out there.
Mm-hmm.
And by meeting people, you meet more people. It's like a network effect. So not only do you have an adventure and you learn a little bit about yourself and how to communicate with the opposite sex or another person, you build up experience and people start seeing you as somebody that other people like. And that raises your score. So you
Or the
kind
same
of get,
sex, for that matter.
yeah, right. Exactly. It's by being out there in the world, people start seeing you as desirable to other people, and it raises your market value. So being out there has its own value. Then this next one, true casting. This is similar to what Rahul talked about in the previous one, which is love me or leave me. I am who I am. That's maybe call it the Popeye approach. I am what I am, and that's all what I am. So it's like laying it out there. You know, I'm not going to pretend to be anybody. I'm going to show you who I am. So we have authentic conversations, start a real relationship. Rahul, what do you think about that strategy? Like just laying it out there.
I think that's, I don't know if that's the first thing you should do, because, I think it should be something that you don't want to lie to anybody about who you are, but maybe who you are isn't that great. And so maybe, you can't just say, I hate X, Y, and Z, and I love A, B, and C, and I don't care much for D, E, and F. You might want to just maybe don't touch on that, like our friend Michael Banovac said. He said,
Right.
What's the purpose of the first date? To see if there should be a
See if
second
there's a
date.
second
You don't want to
date.
drop it all on the first date, or there might not be a second date for you ever. So,
Yep.
I think it's important to being real, but at the same time, there's a time and a place.
Right.
You don't want to be dishonest or disingenuous, but you also don't want to just, hey, the truth hurts, right? Is what I'll say. Oh, but I'm just saying the truth. Well, that isn't. You don't have to say it like that.
That's right. That's right. And exactly. And it's going to be probably overwhelming to go to a date and unload a bunch of checklist items on the other person who's not expecting that. And it's already hard enough to meet people and get them. We already read about all the time how hard it is to sit down and meet people IRL in real life with these apps. I think you're playing it on hard mode, as you're suggesting. You're just making it harder by dropping all these so-called truth bombs right off the bat. And the other person just kind of goes, oh, geez,
I don't need to deal with that.
This person's kind of a jerk, you know, and when you're a nice person, probably, and they might really like you if you just are a little more subtle about things. And like Rahul says, put your best foot forward, be you. Don't lie about yourself, but you don't need to reveal, like we said, you don't need to reveal that you have, you know, a couple of unusual hobbies or things that some people might be judgmental about. Let them get to know the rest of you first before you tell them. I'll give one example. If you're a gun owner, that might be an instant no for somebody who doesn't know you.
Mm-hmm.
And they just freak out and say, well, I'm not interested. You're just like, if you don't like guns, I'm done with you. Well, you know,
talk about everything else.
Talk about other things. And then they get to know you and think you're a trustworthy, honest, nice person. And later on, when you mention you're a firearm owner, they don't freak out. They say, well, this is a good person. Maybe this changes my perception on that issue. And I'm just using that issue as an example. It can be any number of other things.
You know, it's like the marketing, right? It's like whether you are, you know, I'm the gun owner who happens to like baseball, or I'm the baseball aficionado who happens to own guns.
Yeah, right. And so you have to think about that stuff when you're meeting somebody new for the first time. Some of these issues can be tremendously polarizing. So you don't assume that they're going to shut you out. Give it a chance and go on a few dates, get to know somebody, and then eventually they'll get to know these other aspects of you. And it doesn't need to be all reeled off in a laundry list. That's just going to turn somebody off. Like, why are you in such a hurry? You know, and what's your goal? You know, it's kind of like then you're expecting them to match you and like list everything about them in the first meeting. That's just overwhelming. This last one is called status flexing, and it's not about like showing you've got a Rolex or something. The point is interesting. It's sort of a rebound on the situationship trend we've talked about, and people know about. Situationships are like, we're just friends, where we're not quite friends. You're not quite dating. You're not exclusive. You're in the middle. And status flexing is basically, you know, pushing back and saying, kind of demanding that you know what the status is, that we should know where the relationship is.
You want a label.
There should be structure in the dating, so that we understand what the expectations are, that there's a desire for security. So interesting. Thought it was fun to talk about, and you know, we're keeping track of these for you, so
yeah,
you can know if you're in one of these situations and recognize it if it's happening to you. Let's talk about so anyway, thanks folks. That's the show, but wanted to mention how you can reach us. We're from STG Divorce Law at stglawfirm.com, and we're in Chicago and the suburbs, and we serve smart, successful people, and we make divorce better for those folks and people with businesses, more complex divorces, things of that nature. We do prenups, postnuptial agreements, and divorces for smart, successful people. If that fits your description, please check us out. Understand, we serve Cook County and the collar counties, the counties right around Cook County. If you aren't in that area, we are still happy to help you. We are able to coach you. We are also able to give you referrals to great divorce lawyers across the United States and in Canada. So please let us know. We have a network of excellent professionals across the country. And also, Rahul, tell them where they can find you on social.
You can find me at Chicago Divorce as well as on LinkedIn, which is the preeminent source for professional marketing, I guess, these days.
LinkedIn, yeah. Okay, so and what's your handle on Instagram? And
yeah, it's at Chicago Divorce.
Yeah, so it's easy to find Rahul on at Chicago Divorce, and Rahul's on Instagram with his name Rahul Iyer, Iyer, as you can see on the screen if you're watching on video. And I'm the author of the best-selling divorce book, I Just Want This Done: How Smart, Successful People Get Divorced Without Losing Their Kids, Money, and Minds. Available on Amazon, Kindle, and where all great ebooks are sold. Also an audiobook on Audible. So check it out. It's a bestseller 4 years on. And we're going to come out with an amended or updated version of the book. And it's going to take several months to come out with. But there have been some updates I want to add and a new chapter on what happens if your case goes to trial. Otherwise, this is the resource for divorce. Also, not just a boring divorce book. It tells stories about real cases and my divorce story in the book. And it's an interesting read cover to cover. I made it that way because people don't want to read boring stuff. And this podcast is not just another boring divorce podcast. That's our promise to you as our listeners. So if you have comments, questions, concerns, please raise them in the comments to the show, whether you're on YouTube or Apple Podcasts, wherever you may be. And just let us know. You can always reach out to us at the law firm to contact us. I'm easily found on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, on X. I'm at Rayford Palmer at all those places. So very easy to find. We have a whole bunch of YouTube videos available for STG divorce law folks for Illinois divorce. And we have our entire library of past podcasts on YouTube at the I Just Want This Done divorce podcast. And I Just Want This Done.com is our book channel. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you next week.